It doesn't matter where you live, whether you're rich or poor, or even which higher power you choose to pull strength from. One thing is for sure. In the blink of an eye, everything can change.
The early days of snowboarding in Whistler, we lived in a big house out here called the Snowboard House. Probably on any given weekend there'd be 20 people living in there. 5 or 6 of us had contracts with other snowboard companies and we got paid every month of the year to snowboard. I'd just come from an event at Lake Louise where I'd won the half pipe and won the mogul event. I'd won the North American championships in the pro category the year before. It was really living the dream at the time. It was fantastic. The helicopter then burst into flames immediately thereafter, and trying to get 12 people out of a burning tin can is a rather challenging prospect. There was unfortunately 3 people that didn't make it out. It was good friends of ours and some amazing people from the snowboard world that are no longer here with us. Yeah, very, very sad, traumatic time. In that first couple weeks, the doctors told me that my nose and ear were burnt so bad and crispy would be the right term, that my ear and my nose would fall off. And they said they'd build me new ones. And being 20 years old, it's hard to fathom how you would get built a new nose or an ear. And I said, no, I'll be just fine. I'll regrow these. I don't need a new one. And they sent in counselors and people to try to help me with this problem because I wasn't coming close to reality and I wasn't understanding it, that I would lose my nose and my ear, and I kept telling them, I said, go away, I'm gonna keep these, I'll do just fine. And I thought, well, I'm sitting here in the hospital, I got nothing else to do. So I pictured little green men going from the center of my body, taking all the energy that I had and going and walking up and building new pieces of skin, taking the burnt material away and replacing it with new cells and rebuilding. And I did it for hours and hours and hours every day because I had nothing else to do. It worked. After a while, the doctors came in and said, hey, it looks like you might not lose your ear. I said, I told you that 3 weeks ago. Why weren't you listening? "1990 was a very challenging year for me. Early in the year, I fell into a ditch snowboarding, shattered my nose, peeled it half off my face. Then the helicopter crash, and then later that year, I fell off a trampoline, broke both my elbows and my wrist. So for Halloween that year, I had a full plastic face mask on, bright red scars underneath, both arms in a sling and a cast on my wrist, and there I was giving out candy. And this little kid comes up, hey man, cool costume. Kid, this is not a costume, beat it. If you can't laugh at yourself at that point, you never can laugh. But yeah, that kid actually got a lot of extra candy. He was pretty funny.
Hey, Schwartz. Don't need to shave. I'm soft as a baby's butt, I tell ya.
For the recovery of burns, it's not It's not like breaking a leg where 6 weeks later your cast comes off and you walk away and it's a non-issue. Your burn trauma can be 5, 10, 15, 20 years. The physical heals fairly quickly, but then you've got mental trauma to deal with, and the most valuable part is the people you surround yourself with. You're either with people that realize you're going to get better and that nothing is actually different with you, and I would describe it as I had the nicest, meanest friends on the planet that wouldn't allow me to be different.
Do another lap. I want to film you. Just like, because I got to get Don Schwartz, the skate god, on video.
I have an understanding of people now that is beyond belief. Within seconds, meeting somebody, I can decide if they're a worthwhile person, if they've got an actual sincerity, or if they're just blowing smoke in the wind. That was a gift I learned from going through that many years of wearing a plastic face mask.
Don's recovery since I've known him has been very interesting. When I first met Don in the late 90s, his scars were much redder and much more severe. Emotionally, I never would have considered that there was anything wrong with Don from the time I met him. He had such a positive outlook, and he went from border cross racing to barefoot water skiing to death racing. And he was in a helicopter crash, and he got into helicopters, daily in the wintertime. And you would think that there was absolutely nothing there from the crash.
My daughter's piano teacher, Heidi McPherson, was working through some stuff on the piano with the kids called modes. And you sit down and you just play a chord with one hand and play the similar notes in the right hand, and you just play for however you feel.
You want to play spontaneously and not think about it too much. And I gave him just the framework of it. I told him how to pick 7 tones, told him he didn't have to worry about key signatures, that he should hold that tonic in the left hand to remind himself what mode he's in. And he just went to the Dorian mode.
It was so dark and so depressing and so heavy. The whole house got really quiet, and the whole aura in the house changed.
It was so dark and, spooky.
I didn't even know that was in him. We decided that Donnie was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, just that his suffering wasn't as outward as a lot of people's suffering. And until there were certain triggers, you didn't even know that it was there. Once he started doing his pilot's license, he was having a real tough time when he got close to the ground.
All right, fire up.
His hands were sweaty, and he was having physical stress responses. He couldn't come close to the ground without the instructor having to take control and, get them down safely.
trauma occurs and we're really threatened, we're really scared, our body has a mechanism that can protect us emotionally. It's called dissociation, and I like to call it the Cadillac of coping skills. People with PTSD, complex, severe PTSD, that comes from a situation that might have been life-threatening, very often dissociate. Now, once you've learned to dissociate, it can keep reoccurring, and in fact, anytime you would get triggered by a stimulus, visual, auditory, words, sounds, even thoughts, that remind you of the traumatic event, your body can go into that dissociative state.
I realized more and more this was not getting better. Adding more hours of flying to it was not fixing the problem. And it was at that point in time I'd heard another friend had gone through a process called lens neurofeedback. And it was a way of dealing with PTSD and other, I wouldn't call them psychological, mental problems, past challenges of life. And I went to see the psychologist, and he said within minutes, oh yeah, you still got PTSD left over from your helicopter crash. I said, no, that was 25 years ago. I got over that 25 years ago. He said, no, you didn't. You still got that thick and strong. You're hanging on to that. You're still carrying that bag with you.
Neurofeedback is an EEG-based technology. I use a system called the LENS. LENS stands for Low Energy Neurofeedback System. And instead of giving auditory and visual feedback, the feedback is low amplitude electromagnetic energy delivered to the scalp. The intensity of the energy is about the same amount coming out of my watch. Do clients feel it? No. Maybe 1 in 200 will say, gee, I felt a little buzz or tingle. The lens is a disruptive technology. What the lens is saying is, I'm going to try to disrupt the dysfunctional patterning that's going on in your brain with a belief that if I disrupt it, the brain's going to go, what do I do? What am I supposed to do? And it will reboot itself in that particular area.
Once he went through this, there was a shift. And instead of watching, he was in his body. And so the memories changed from being an observer and kind of an out-of-body experience to going back into your body.
Fortunately, I just had an open enough mind to it and watched it work for somebody else get rid of their ADHD. And I said, why not? Everything's mental related. What's the worst I have to lose on this? And when I saw how much it did for my friends and I watched how fast it changed me, it was, all right, I'm all in. Finish this off. And then we went to a process called the EMDR, and that is how your brain deals with a traumatic event. And it's literally going through the whole event again while watching a light bar move side to side. So your eyeballs are tracking side to side. And the person that found out about this was walking through the forest one day thinking about a traumatic event and looking side to side down the trail at the beautiful scenery. And at the end of the walk, I had realized, wow, a traumatic event is no longer traumatic. I went back and told my instructor, I said, today, it's different. I went back and flew the helicopter like I was a calm, in control individual with no rapid heart rate, no sweaty palms, no terror. It was, again, something you would look at and say, that's impossible. It doesn't work like that. And his only question was, whatever you're doing, keep on doing it. But I gotta know what's different. And I said, well, getting rid of the PTSD that's been there for 25 years. And it was shocking to find out how easy it is to get rid of it. And I just wished I'd found out. Maybe somebody told me 25 years earlier, I just wasn't listening. Now it's a big point of try to find people that will listen, that have been through similar things, that yes, there's a fix, there's a way around this, you don't need to live with suffering for the rest of your life.